Hey everyone, Sly47 here. We are going over flanking today. We're going to become better at going around caps, not in them, with Red and Steve here. How are you two doing?
Too bad, not too bad.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm doing well myself.
Doing well. Awesome. So, flanking in this game, we have seen plenty of times that people decide that flanking means to go to the corner of the map, maybe find the gold in the corner as well, and then never help out their team. And we're kind of getting sick of that. So, Red, Steve, and I have gotten together and we are going to discuss how to flank and what is flanking in this entire game and how to do it effectively. So, first off the bat, let's talk about what is flanking. Let's define it.
Sure. So like for me, I guess flanking is just going on a flank, maybe spotting for a cruiser that's in front of you if you're a destroyer, and maybe killing the other DD off the rip. But for me, just flanking is about spotting the enemy team quicker, I guess, and everyone else who's flanking. Um, that's the best description I have for it.
And that's specifically not going into cap where you'd be expected to be spotted, where when you're on this flank, you're expected to try to maybe stay hidden while you're doing all that, right?
Yeah, like going on a flank, it's either so you spot other people on the flank that are flanking just like you, or is to get around behind enemy lines and reduce focus fire, really.
Yeah.
Because when you're flanking, obviously the whole map's not going to be able to shoot at you. But let's say you go mid and destroyer, all the cruisers might be able to shoot at you, even bouncers might be able to
You'll
take pot shots.
crossfire, you'll mid, you'll be in the crossfire.
Yeah, lots of crossfire. So flanking is about eliminating crossfire, I guess, mainly, and
Okay.
You become the
reducing
crossfire
damage
when
you
you
take.
flank. You become the crossfire when you
Exactly, you
flank.
Yeah.
become the crossfire.
Especially if the enemy team goes into some sort of turtle formation or they're all kind of in a major group. Now all of a sudden you're the fox in the henhouse. You're going around them and absolutely being an annoying menace, meaning that your ships can focus on them while they're having to turn around and turn their entire turrets on there.
Mhm.
But when you are flanking specifically and going into this, obviously you want to take out any DD or any light cruiser on your way around and trying to get around the main area of the main group of players. What is your goal that you should be thinking about, Red? What would you say is the goal when you are
The
flanking
goal.
specifically? Yeah.
So outside of especially when you're playing a lot of destroyer hunters, fast destroyer hunters, you can kill DD off rip, you can kill light cruiser off rip. The more important thing is that if you're playing with a really good team around you, what you actually end up doing is that you actually end up pulling ships away from your team. If you do this correctly, and your team is good enough, you start peeling battleships or cruisers away from the mid, and that leaves them with a gap, and that's ultimately what leads your team to win because now they have less things to worry about. I see this countless times where I play a lot of flanking destroyers, and you'll just see me peeling ships away, and by the time they kill me, by the time they find me, it's already too late for them.
Yeah, your team will then be able to focus on what isn't following you and like that, and just absolutely being able to destroy them with their overwhelming firepower. Because too many people see, oh look, there's a DD behind me. I'm gonna go help out, and all of a sudden three guns go one way, and it's just you're basically helping out your entire
The
team stay
main
alive.
goal is not the C. If look, I've said this before. If I get to the CV, it's by accident. I get
Yep.
to the CV. The CV is not the main goal. If you make the CV your main goal, you will get nothing done on the flank most of the time.
Yeah, it does help obviously to kill the CV, and you could get spotted via the CV, so that might be the most annoying
And you
factor when
can
you are
kill the CV
flanking.
while you're there. You may as well, but it shouldn't be your
Yeah,
main goal.
yeah, it should be trying to get around and be that annoying pest in order to do that. Steve, what would you say your kind of is that the same idea for your goal, or would you say something a
Yeah.
little different?
Well, like another goal for flanking is even just to dodge CV planes. Like you might flank because CV send the planes down mid, so you want to dodge being spotted.
Hmm.
So you might
Yeah.
flank pretty wide to dodge that. And I guess the other goal would be if you're outside the cap, you know, it's good to bring other people outside the cap because that makes what you're doing okay, I guess. Like let's say there's 7v7 and you're out of the cap. So now there's maybe seven of them enemies in the cap and six of your team is. But now if you start dragging other people out, then you not being in the cap is still being useful because you're bringing other people out. Or if no one comes out, then you're still getting behind enemy lines and setting up crazy crossfire,
I
and
should
it'll
have
be really bad for them.
I should have mentioned this earlier when we were defining flanking, but when you are flanking, when we say flanking, we don't mean go map border from the get-go. That's not what no, that's not what we mean by flanking. When we say flanking, it's either you're near the outside rim of the cap, especially in epicenter, or you are maybe like a few kilometers out from the cap for center control or even domination. You don't want to be like map border. That's if you get there, that's by accident, hopefully, not because that's where you're trying to go.
Yes,
You know,
because so
actually,
many people chased you out that far.
Exactly.
I actually think that that epicenter idea is a little bit of a good way to say it. Is that if you think of epicenter in a map, you want to basically be going just around that outer line cap, basically on every map. Just kind of put it there, and that's as far as you really want to flank. You go any further, you pull yourself away from the battle far too
You
much.
can go slightly
So-
further to epicenter maps, but you can't really push yourself to map border because at that point, most destroyers especially don't have the range to be playing at that range at there and getting game influence. You just can't do it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe for the people that are newer, when you are in epicenter, kind of get that idea of where the outskirts of that is, and that's about where you want to be kind of flanking in most of the games when there isn't an epicenter in there for that map type.
Especially if
So-
you're playing epicenter maps like Chain, where there's a lot of islands to use. You want to be on the rim.
Yeah,
Yeah, like when you're flanking epicenter maps, you still want to be inside the outer cap. Like that's the minimum. You don't
You
want
want
to
to
be
be you want to have the ability to actually do something while being near the cap.
yeah, or you're kind of
Yeah.
you're weaving through that app, the map border or the cap border in order to best kind of be like, hey, I'm here when I'm needed to win the cap over, but I'm also not showing sometimes my presence where it is because you might want to stay concealed still.
There's always the risky move where you could really flank. Not really. You don't start flanking hard, but if you have to flank hard around a rock and you start going back to their spawn, it does take a while. But if that is sometimes required if there's a cruiser that is willing to chase you across early in the game and you need to escape them for a while, you do need to flank some harder sometimes. But that doesn't mean instantly go map border.
Oh yeah, and obviously we don't want to go flanking in a Vermont. So let's go over classes and kind of some exceptions to those rules within this class. It's obviously most destroyers will and can flank, I should say, or can flank. Are there any destroyers that you'd say that they just shouldn't?
There are some destroyers that are harder to flank in, I believe. Those that are harder, maybe the exception being Druid here, the British destroyers, not because they don't do good damage on the flank, it's the fact that you have to play smart because you're very slow destroyers. You have to be very good at positioning yourself on the flank. Because if you don't position yourself well, you could be out of the battle half the time in the British destroyer. Because you're so slow for destroyer standards.
Yeah, with daring, I don't actually think you should flank in daring because it is so nimble. You can be that annoying little pest in the middle of the map, taking a lot of fire but not receiving a lot of damage, and that is a great way to take guns straight in on you while the rest of your team pumps in damage onto the enemy team. So you're just a great distraction. I don't really think it'd be a flanking, but you take like the Kleber, obviously, flank. The Kleber.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kleber and Marcel. Yep.
Komarov, Sidoni.
Well, the thing about daring is you have single launcher torps, so you can hit all 10 torps in targets that are bowing even. But all the other DDs, when you flank, you're getting broadsides. You're getting torp broadsides you can shoot. And obviously, daring has so many smokes, you can constantly evade the.
It's not a British destroyer, but like the only really exception to the rule might be Vampire. But that's only because Vampire can actually relocate if it has to, and it has long-lasting smokes. Like Vampire can actually relocate even on flank if it has to.
I think
You still play more centrally in Vampire compared to other destroyers, but you have the
Well,
ability
you
to
can't play too
relocate.
central because your smoke reload is actually pretty long. Like
When I say centrally, when I say centrally, I mean like near the cap edge, like right on the cap edge. You can play on Vampire.
You're wanting to captain test in that. Similar to how like a Z52 will want to flank, but it will really.
Domination maps, you can captain test in the daring and the Vampire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but there's also like lots of cruisers you want to flank in because it goes back to what I was saying about evading or not getting so much focus fire on yourself, especially since you're a cruiser. You eat a lot of damage, you get stood out easy, so you don't want everyone to be able to shoot at you by going mid.
I think a great example of that would be. I think a great example would be what Colbert. I think a great example.
Colbert, Henry.
Yeah, Henry.
Just low detection tips. Austin, like you put Austin in a destroyer spotting right in front of it on a flank.
That's a deadly combination right there.
Austin Smallwind, like as soon as you spot the DD, you radar. It's a long day for that DD.
Oh yeah, that's an instant first strike medal right there.
Even in heavy cruisers, you can flank still in heavy cruisers though. That's the thing.
Yeah, with cruisers though, and obviously we need to talk about light and heavy cruisers. It's really up to concealment at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's how good of a concealment. Obviously, you don't really want to be flanking in a Puerto Rico, but you can. But
You wouldn't want to like hard flank in like I don't know
Yeah.
Stalingrad or something. You can, but you're pretty easy target to pick out in the middle of the map, and not the middle of the map, in the outside edge of the map.
Oh, yeah, especially with cruisers. Now battleships. I think there's really only two. I think we were talking about this before we even started.
Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent, Schlieffen.
Sleeping.
Maybe
Maybe
still
Montana.
got
Incomp is
Fast?
another
yeah,
valid
yeah, that's
potential
true.
one.
Oh,
Because
Yeah,
Incomp's
Incomp.
concealment is so good that you can jump the cruiser on the flank if you have the chance. You just obliterate them.
yeah,
that's
flanking
true.
is about having concealment, low concealment, and jump scaring people.
Yeah.
Like jump scaring a DD off rip, jump scaring light cruisers, you know, just surprising
Well,
people
when
with
you're playing Incomp,
concealment.
you would jump scare battleships in Incomp.
Here's a triple citadel for you. Have fun.
Yeah, you would jump scare everything in Incomp besides destroyers. I mean,
Oh, yeah. And that goes on to the concealment mod, which I know we always have a good conversation on stream about this, but definitely on flanking, you want to make sure you have concealment mod because you don't want to make people know you're there until you want them to know you're there.
yeah, if you're flanking, you're pretty much almost forced to run concealment mod because without it, you get outspotted, and that's how people die on the flanks. That's how people die on the flanks is that when they get outspotted.
Yeah, all those shimmers without concealment.
Yeah, all the shimmers not running
will go
concealment
away.
mod. Well, more like all the Calaberas that don't run concealment, and then they get killed by the Regolos. Like it's
Yeah, well, like even DD's not running concealment, and they run into a light cruiser like Colbert or Austin.
they're Colbert or Minotaur.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They just get eaten up alive.
Now, of course, we do need to talk about the opposite of flanking, as in when should you cap and when should you not cap. Because obviously, we've all seen those flanking DDs that do absolutely zilch for the game. They maybe go and kill the CV. Awesome, cool, but you did not help win the game at all. Really, you went around the map border, or you went flanking, and then you just really never helped out the team. So with flanking, how do you guys go about in trying to make sure that you don't push the cap is lava narrative that we constantly run into?
Okay, well, I guess if you're playing cap contesting destroyers, so Z52, Z42, Druid, these are DDs that can just kind of sit there and then just kind of kill whatever is there. They don't necessarily outspot everything. They just sit there and do their job very well.
Well, and they also have Hydro to spot
Yes,
because when you're sitting in cap,
Hydro's a big one.
You kind of need Hydro because when you're sitting in cap, other destroyers are just spamming torps in there.
Daring's another one Daring and Vampire also push the cap.
Yeah, Daring and Vampire would be up.
It's also for having Hydro for your team. You sit in the cap and you spot the torps from way out for your battleships and cruisers. So I'd say that's a pretty big point, depending on what ship you're playing.
Also, if you're playing Domination, a radar destroyer can push the cap really well because you're also providing spawning for someone in the cap.
Yep.
If you're playing something like Smaller or Ragnar, you can also push the cap if you have good backup with you.
Yep.
When it comes to Domination, you can pretty much always flank into a cap, so it's fine.
You can flank. I guess the way wording it would be, you can flank into the cap, like you flank around an area, then you get to the cap, then you kill something. But I guess it depends on the map.
I guess when to cap would be like if you're the only destroyer on your team, and let's say there's no destroyers on the enemy team. It's like cage center control. You should go get in the cap because it's just gonna be free points for your team. Maybe you can leave the cap right after you get it, but you're gonna get there first and way before anyone else. So it's pretty much a free cap, and you're wasting potential points for your team by not getting it.
Yeah, that's where I think it's. Of course, sometimes you're gonna flank, and maybe you're even a chicken or a fox in the henhouse type of idea. You're way in the back. Eventually, you do have to think about. You're gonna have to cap in case your team is not winning the cap. In case everything
you do eventually have to return to the cap whether you like it or not. If you're losing, like it's just the nature of it.
Yep, and you just have to know when that is. But is there any thoughts and ideas of when people should kind of go, hey, crap, I gotta go get cap, versus going for damage farming?
If your CV especially is getting chased by some like two ships and like who are flanking or headed back to that cap, and you're already and you're heading back from your flank, you have to get to that cap. If you're losing points, you have to get back to the cap as soon as possible at that point. If that's gonna save your team from winning, getting the points, that's what's gonna cost you to win. Especially in epicenter.
Yeah.
Situations where you would want to go get in the cap is, let's say you and someone else are just flanking really wide, having a 1v1, and they start pushing really far out, like you can just isolate them by just leaving them all of a sudden.
You just leave
and
them
just
on the
heading
back.
back to the cap.
If you just leaving them in the back and just head back to the cap and get some more game influence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That is true. There you go.
Depending on your spawn, also on like, let's say cage center control or cage epicenter, it was like inside DD spawns for like 3 or more DD matches. So if you spawn the inside, like personally on cage center control, when I spawn on inside in DDs, I'll actually go grab the cap. But if I spawn outside, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna go in now. But if I'm on the inside, I'm not gonna go around my other destroyer player. Like that doesn't really make sense.
No. Well, if you're also playing chain and you kill those on the flank in the outer ring, then you go later into the inner ring if you have the ability to, because that's just free points at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, especially if you're like a big DD and chain, you definitely want to go mid cap. If you don't have smoke, because the islands in the middle cap kind of like escape, or not prevent your escape is what I meant to say. Because of their positioning, and if you don't have smoke, it's really hard to get out of there.
Yeah, that's why
you'd
play wider with French destroyers or like Russian destroyers in chain, but you can play a little more aggressively with Regolo because you have fuel smoke.
I think that's a good point though, is that if you do notice and you are per se chasing on a flank, you're chasing someone down, you're chasing to kill them, and per se they are heading well back into where they spawned, or even kind of into the outer ring of the map. Sometimes just leaving them is the best play. Just be like, you've effectively removed yourself in the battle, so why do I need to keep on chasing you? I can go back and help out and get caps, maybe get another kill, help out your team, get more, kind of be more influential in the battle than that. So,
yeah, exactly. And what you want to be doing is like watching minimap and seeing like, or even looking at the chat. If someone's saying capture the target area and they're trying to get in as well. Like if a bunch of you are going into the cap, you can maybe head back. But obviously, if you're going to head back towards the cap, it's only going to be you. And there's like 3 other enemies in there. Obviously, there's no point because you're not going to flip it. And you're better off just trying to do damage somewhere else. But if there's multiple people trying to get it, you might want to go make an effort to help them out with that.
Yeah, I completely agree on that one. I think that I've seen too many people definitely get into the whole goose chase, especially against me being a CC. I've got plenty of people who just peel away and go, "Oh, look, a CC!" They just run at me, and I'm just like, "Okay, sure. If you want to come with me to the corner of the map, let's go, buddies. Let's go." But it's just you gotta know when to sometimes just stop and go, "Hey, fall back. I don't need to worry about this. Go right back to that." Yeah. So when you're actually you're in a game, you're just starting off, is there any telltale signs when you just straight up shouldn't flank? You're like, okay, crap, this is my time to go and focus on caps, or even if you're in the mid game, it's just, hey, I need to get off of this flank outside of the person going into the corner of the map and you chase it down. Is there any other situations that you'd want to say that flanking is not suggested by you two?
If you see, I'm going to use Hourglass as an example because this happens all the time in Hourglass. If you see the entire enemy team pushing the one side of Hourglass on your flank, you do not push that flank. You start kiting immediately the moment you see that whole team. You do not keep flanking. That is exactly how I've seen people die in destroyers, because they think they can handle the flank of 5 shit. Do not push that. Do not push. Same in encounter. The same exact rule with encounter. If you see the whole team pushing that, you don't push. You just start kiting. Yeah. Most of the time, you can't get away with flanking there.
Steve?
Yeah. I guess it kind of goes back to what I was saying about dodging the CV. Like, let's say CV's going for the flank now instead of going through mid. You might want to head back towards your cruiser if you're in a low AA ship. But say you're just in Hogumo, one of the unfortunate ships that gets wrecked by CVs. Or we'll go low for there. Those can dodge pretty well, though. But let's say you're in Hogumo, you might just want to hug like a Des Moines or something and just go ahead and get in the cap. Because you're just going to get clapped by CV, especially if you know they focus you in particular, like a CV main who focuses you, or, just a CV main who's good at hitting DDs and will focus you until you're dead. You want to remove that focus from yourself and just stay near something else that can get focused. And in that situation, you might just want to end up pushing the cap because you're going to get nothing done on the flank anyway. If they're going to keep you spotted and just keep yelling for you the whole time.
Also, if you're playing like a DD, what would be a good example? If you're playing, I don't know, like a Shima, and you see Regolo spotted on the flank eventually, I don't recommend pushing the flank with the Regolo on it until you know Regolo is no longer there.
Or severely crippled, and use your guns because your guns exist in Shimakaze.
So black Shima players, use your guns; they exist. Unless Regolo is crippled or is killing himself, you can't really push that if the Regolo player is smart enough. So you pretty much just want to either delay yourself from flanking or you just want to relocate at that point. Because it's kind of hard to deal with Regolo players who are actively trying to hunt you down on the flank.
So
If you're playing a smaller destroyer, that is.
yeah, to kind of add on to this, we've kind of talked about always having a Thunder Buddy with you, kind of having a Des Moines with you if you need to hide behind or anything like that. But is there times where you actually want to flank by yourself? Like if you notice you have no support, like that, is there?
If you're flanking,
Yeah, it's like should
well,
you?
okay. I think one of the best examples of this, I'm just gonna go back to Regolo all the time. Because Regolo, the thing is that you don't need spawning in Regolo because you're usually gonna be in front of whatever you are, and you have smoke of yourself for yourself. And usually Regolo's hunting destroyers. You're finding the destroyers to kill. You don't. If you are flanking, in a destroyer like Regolo or like a Caliber, you tend to not need someone most of the time unless their whole team's there, because you can usually do the flanking all by yourself. A lot of those faster DDs are built to flank all by themselves.
Okay, so
Yeah,
depending on the speed, you kind of go, hey, okay, I can do this. By
And there's
myself,
situations where it'd be
else-
nice to have someone with you. Like it's not like they never should have someone with them, but
Yeah,
well, and also it depends on how well they can handle DDs by themselves. Like how
Yes.
well can this destroyer kill another destroyer? And obviously, Klibe and Regolo are some of the top two. Carbarosk is up there.
Carbarosk
Those
is good
guns
as
hit
well.
so hard, like 4K plus salvos. And that's the main thing you want to consider is like how well when I get in a 1v1 this. Or like let's say I'm on 1v1 with the cruiser, like obviously Klibe can still win that. Or how fast can you escape when you're going by yourself? Like let's say, like Dino said earlier, you run into a flank with 5 people on it. Like, are you quick enough to get out? That's the main thing at the.
That's why you can and that's why you cannot flank with Druid at the same time.
Exactly.
Druid can flank, but the Druid can't run from his problems easily.
no,
Druid cannot flank by itself. That's for sure. You definitely need something
Druid
behind you.
If Druid is flanking by itself, it needs to have islands to use. It cannot open water flank.
Oh, we cannot.
It's not easy to open water flank in Druid.
That's very similar to like Marseille. Like that, I occasionally flank in that, but you definitely need islands to hide behind, else you're gone.
Similar case with Des Moines. Des Moines can go on, like if we're playing Cage and you're like on the northern spot of Cage with the big island on the left, you can hump that rock in Des Moines on the outer side to help your destroyer if you need to. You can't. I mean, obviously, wouldn't be the best decision all the time, but if their destroyer's not flanking, but you can play the rock because you have you can't play Des Moines in that situation because you have the rock.
Yeah. So we talked about generally, okay, when to flank, how to think about flanking, what's the goal of flanking, when is the time that you kind of, I think we kind of did actually cover this of when to stop flanking is when, per se, you're hunting down someone that's going to the back corner of the map. Do you have any other thoughts of when we should stop flanking?
If you are playing a base capture map and you are middle of the map and you see your cap getting flipped, if you are fast enough in destroyer and you know your team's gonna flip the other cap, you just get back to the base. You just get back to the base if you can. If it's gonna mean saving your team, you just go back to the base if you have the time to get back there. Now, if you're in like top edge of the map, you're not gonna get back in time. But if you're middle of the map or close to the base, you just go back to the base and stop flanking. You just go back and save your team.
Well, even we can talk about farming more damage. There's times when you should stop flanking to farm more. Like you could end up pushing. Like, the goal to farming damage is not flank and farm to reduce focus fire, but also you don't want to push yourself away from damage, like by just going on a flank.
You want to be able to put yourself in a position where you have the damage available once you kill something already.
Yeah, you don't want to be like traveling a whole minute to get to the next ship because you
want
push
to be
yourself
already
so
traveling
far out.
to said ship, so you already are at the damage.
Yeah, so once you kill that person, you can move on to the next person. You don't want to just keep flanking because you're shooting at someone. You might have to just flip your guns around. So you can start heading back towards other ships and other damage.
Yeah.
So it's not always just about stop flanking so you can get a win. It's sometimes you can't. You have to stop flanking to even just get more damage.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to push yourself out of the damage. You want to push towards damage. You don't want to get like so zeroed in on one person that you forget about the mini map and everybody else because they could be all on the other side, and you waste a lot of time.
Yeah, especially when you flank and per se you have that turtle where you just have the enemy pushes the complete other flank and now you're over there by yourself, potentially only with one of the team trying to be like, I'm going to try to hold this flank, and you're just over here being like, no, I'm going to kill you really quick. You should pretty much be beelining it right to that larger group of players in order to make sure you're continually getting more and more damage.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get that peak damage, ideally you'd be like directly behind everything. If you're directly behind everything, that is the peak damage farm you can get in this game, basically. That is how when I used to hold Vampire World Record, that's what my game was. It's just me and Cage flanking around the cap slightly, kill Vermont, and I'm farming battleships behind them. It's just if you get into that position yourself, you've already succeeded for the game.
Now, especially for newer players, what would you guys like suggest? Okay, they've now gotten around the flank, and all of a sudden they have got 2 battleships, a cruiser, and maybe a destroyer in cap that they're all looking at. How would you prioritize that? Like, what would you do, especially per se, like in a Kleber, you're moving really quick. How would you think when you're okay? I'm the fox in the hen house. How do you maximize your damage in particular ships? What would you guys suggest for newer
Okay,
players?
well if the DD is near you and the DD is going to you, you kill the DD. You got to get rid of any kind of spotting immediately because the key to flanking and trying to actually get something done is that you don't have something out spotting you the whole time while you're concealed. So you kill the DD. Ideally, especially if you're in Kleber, ideally you try to kill a cruiser that's not paying attention to you, so you don't have to worry about that. And then you just kill the battleships. You just YOLO battleships. Because at that point, the battleships have no defense, they have no spotting, and then they're just dead.
Would you suggest always YOLO, or wouldn't it be better sometimes to just pelt them from range?
Well, you sometimes if it's like you wouldn't want to YOLO like a Columbo that has sap ready for you, unless the Columbo's oblivious. But you would want to if you have the chance to like use islands to YOLO someone in Kleber to get quick damage at the end of the game after you do everything else. That is one of the quickest ways of getting damage, and then you just use AP that range.
Gotcha.
I guess like if that kind of there's like a few battleships, like 2 battleships, a cruiser and a destroyer. For me, I just attack the one that's lowest first.
You can also do that. That is also one way.
So that way, because I want the least amount of people shooting me. So I'm gonna take out. Let's say the DD's like 5k HP. I'm gonna take him out real quick, and then I'm gonna go to the other things. Because I don't want to. Let's say I'm in like a cruiser, so now I want a Gearing just shooting 10 torps at me. I'm just gonna take him out, and then move on to other things.
You also don't want like a gumbo destroyer like Vampire sitting next to you, farming you away as you're trying to flank. That also would not be ideal.
No, that wouldn't be.
Yeah, I guess a good example would be when I did 195k in San Martin. I was on a flank and forced okay a Worcester, and then I was fighting 2 battleships and a destroyer. And there was a Missouri that was low, and I finished him off. And then I had to move to the full health destroyer, even though there was a full health battleship there, because I knew if I didn't take out this destroyer over time, he's going to build up way too much damage on me.
Killing the destroyer is pretty key and critical to the flanking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I had an option between battleship and CV, but I knew I should take out the battleship because my AA is good enough. You know, I can fend off the CV's planes, but I can't hold off of Vermont salvos right in front of my face. So it's about target selection at that point.
Yep.
That's something really important when you're flanking, hitting the right targets, not just trying to damage from. Because, you know, if you take out a DD, it might get you more damage than if you went for the battleship first.
Oh yeah. The big juicy target as much as you want to, especially if you see a CV too. Sometimes it's that you get the attitude of, oh, look, a CV, I'm going to shoot it. Focus on making sure you can stay alive to farm even more on that. And, you know...
I mean, granted, if the CV overextends and you're on the flank and you have someone else who can crossfire said CV at once, then you just kill the CV off rip. But if you don't have that chance...
if he's just sitting in the spot, then, you know...
That's not often. It's not often the CV will overextend. It's not often.
Yeah.
Not often, but you can occasionally see them. They'd be quite surprised. I've seen a lot of CVs going mid these days, and I'm like, but why?
Yeah, I've crossfired a midway with a Vincent with me and Vincent and someone else and Vincent, and they overextended, and that's how they die because they have me flanking and someone else giving crossfire.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good example. Like, let's say you're in Klabea or Lagola and you see a CV flanking and you both flank into each other, but you have no backup, that you might not even want to shoot at them because you're not going to kill him if he starts turning away. You might just want to shoot other ships because it's not going to be too useful. Like, you might just get him to, like, a quarter health, but he's still going to escape, and that's kind of wasted damage.
That's what me and Steve when we're playing dual French destroyers at tier 10, which is being caged.
Yeah, they just
or just flanking. They're trying to run from one destroyer, so they run into the other destroyer, and that's how they end up dying.
Oh man,
we should record
hilarious. We should record those games because those are like the most hilarious games.
Actually, both Matt and I, we basically just did 2 Kleberas. Basically, we just went down one flank together. no one had a chance. No one had
Oh
a
no,
chance.
when they're on this when they're on the same flank, it's extremely deadly. But when you're flanking each on each flank, and there's a cruiser or carrier or anything that has to deal with 2 French destroyers on each side of them that's flanking that hard, they just don't know what to do.
Yeah, so what usually would happen is either me or Dino, they'll go for one of us, and one will get like 130K and the other one will get like 80K. Because everyone focused the one French destroyer but let the other one fall.
Yeah, you can't focus 2 French destroyers at the same time. It's quite literally
Yeah, they
impossible.
couldn't handle the crossfire. It was too confusing.
Oh yeah, that is definitely true. Is once you get too much fire on you, you're just like crap. I got to focus on one, but then during that frenzy, you're screwing up. You're not maximizing your damage output on there. Now generally been talking about fast destroyers or even faster cruisers. What would you say when you're flanking? What do you think when they're a little bit slower, like a Harugumo? You know, like that. Obviously, it's not the
Oh,
fastest flanker,
I've been playing a lot of
but
Harguma recently.
yeah, Harugumo was quite fun. I finally have got Makawa with Night Raid, so it's just stupidly easy and simple to play. But is there any suggestions you do? Obviously, you're not flanking as fast, so you kind of want to be a little bit closer to the field. How what are your thoughts when you're thinking about that?
When I'm playing, this is my experience of playing Hargumo for the past few days. When I was playing it a lot, um, usually I'm gonna use Cage because Cage is a really good example for this. When I'm playing in Cage, I will flank. I won't flank as hard as if I'm playing Regola or Kleber because I don't have the speed. What I will do is that I will flank to the point where I find the enemy destroyer. Usually, it's a smaller destroyer like Gearing or Shima. You either deter the Shima or Gearing, or you kill the Shima or Gearing, and then from then on out, you play a little closer to like mid to long range where you have time to dodge in Hargumo. So you just sit there and farm battleships and cruisers. I'll usually like maybe sometimes go on the inside of the map if they're pushing that side. Or I'll just sit right in near the cap edge so I can get good damage on them.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Is that with those faster ones, you're actually going to go with the more fox in the henhouse action, where with the slower ones, it's more you're slowly creeping on them and causing them to actually go, oh crap, I can't shoot the main group here. I got to shoot this one closer to me, and like that, thus allowing your team to do a little bit of crossfire within
Vampire's
that.
another good destroyer to do that.
Yeah.
Vampire's another good one because it has crawling smoke.
Oh yeah. Steve, do you have any suggestions for slower
um,
ships?
Maybe
well,
discuss
yeah,
Daring. Daring is one of those lower destroyers.
yeah. I don't have a lot of slow destroyers. That's kind of the funny thing. I play a lot of fast EVs.
That's true.
Or did I play Daring and Holland? You know, those are my two slow ones, pretty much. That sit in the cap.
I find Holland as a great like it supports the flanking DD. It's really a cruiser in my opinion with the Holland. It's just there to help out.
All 3 EU DDs right now are amazing destroyers to have on your flank if you're in a cruiser because you know you have guarantee radar.
Yeah, that is true. They're more
They are
helping out.
huge. They are huge benefits to your flank.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They also
and
they
so
also can
you
save you
can.
from the CV. All three of them can save you from the CV.
yeah, that is true. The good AA. Thank God. Hopefully we get more AA changes and like that. Anything else you guys want to say about flanking before we wrap this video up?
Um, if you're gonna flank, just know that you have to pretty much be prepared for a potential CV to go for you the whole game.
Yeah, that's true.
There will be games where if the CV sees you flanking, it's just some paranoia because the CVs are so used to Shima players just flanking so hard to get them that the moment they see a destroyer on the or cruiser on the flank, you're just done. Like it's just there's nothing you can do about it in most shifts. So that
I
is the only thing to
guess
worry about.
it's a general rule of thumb. Like, let's say you flanked and you got like 120K, but you got no kills, no caps, or anything. Definitely don't be complaining about your team like not doing enough. If all you did was damage for them and you didn't kill anybody, you know, you don't really have any grounds to be complaining about anything. But like, let's say you're in Regolo and you killed a DD off of it, and you did 120K. That's okay if you
You've
complain
already
because you
done
still
more
did
game influence
something.
killing the destroyer off Rip and Regola than the
Yeah,
person doing
you at least have to
120K.
get a
Yeah.
kill off Rip to be able to like say you did something useful. If you kill someone in like the last 10 seconds, that's still not useful. If you are out 10 kilometers away from the cap the whole time, not doing anything. So I guess the main thing about flanking is you can't complain about having bad teams just because it looked like you did a lot of damage. But yeah,
Yeah, we don't want to be
try
seeing you
and
in
get
world
a
chat
kill.
being like, God, I hate these teams. And it's like, dude, you were out on left field doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I
not
mean,
very fair to your
it's the
teammate.
most serious of ways. Can we have like all the CV midways just flanking into cage center control near the cap? I think that'd be a great idea. All the midways, Yo, come with the flank. Come with. Let's go. I want to have a chat. Let's have tea. Let's have some tea. Let's have a talk. Let's have a talk.
Have a little chin wag here. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
it's okay. It's okay. They only has 9% damage reduction. You can take all the damage. You can take all the damage.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you got tank for your team.
You get tank. Look.
Take some focus fire.
Nero has like what 40k HP. That's more than some cruisers. Like, come on, that's amazing.
Oh man. Well, I think is that it on this subject? Wrap it up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good texture destroyers. That's all I can say. There's a lot of good texture destroyers you can flank with.
Yeah.
You don't even need premiums
Yeah.
for it. Some of the best flanking
of
destroyers aren't even
fast
premiums. That's the best part.
Yeah. I really do feel that the balance of DDs actually that's why I think we are having this DD heavy meta is that there's a lot of good DDs. There's very few bad DDs.
The only bad DDs you can even come close to is Khabarovs, but if you put Legmon on Khabarovs actually works pretty well. Like you can there's not an objectively bad tier 10 destroyer. Like there really is.
Yeah, they have not released a bad tier 24 here. It's probably more. I don't know about Grosvenor. I never played it, but Diana doesn't like it. But there has not been like a bad tier 10 destroyer released in a long
The only
time.
the only objectively bad tier 10 destroyer there ever was maybe Khabarovs before all the buffs, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But Wargaming definitely did a good job in the
they
DD
do a
balance.
phenomenal job. They do an amazing at tier 10 at least. At least at tier 10. At least at tier 10. The lower tiers is a bit of a different story, but
yeah, I think we
10.
only have. I was actually just looking at our last one, Red, and I think Steve, you were there too with the overall tier 10 tier maker, and I was like, yeah, we only really have Delny, Hayate, and Grozvoy and Kaba.
Those aren't even bad. They're just kind of It's just that they're all like they're not very different from some of the other destroyers. So that's the thing.
Well, after I averaged 90, I don't think I put Kaba there.
Yeah, Kaba. I have a slight change of opinion. Kaba. I never thought Kaba was the worst destroyer. I just never thought Khabarovs was the best destroyer. That's my
Kaba versus non-trick Kaba is a whole different other thing, though.
Like, trick Kaba is mandatory zero. I played Kaba without leg mod. It is miserable playing it without leg mod. It is miserable. You have to play with leg mod.
Yeah,
and then
and we do have to talk about Grozvoy, but Grozvoy I feel like is just not a DD. It is a small cruiser. And it sucks at that job. It sucks at the job.
It's not a bad ship. It's just a boring ship. Let me get that out of the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because it was like, even Hayate, I've actually been enjoying Hayate. I've not minded that. It's obviously the Black Shimakaze is better. I get it. But
Black Shima is a beast from a different planet.
It is just better for sure.
Oh yeah. So that's why it is, because we do have some really bad, tech tree battleships and some bad cruisers overall, and DDs are just overall usable.
Most OP class confirmed.
Well, we're going to end on that before we make this an hour-long podcast and everything. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. If you haven't, hit the notification bell to see whenever a new video goes live. Go check out Red Gaming Dino's channel over on there. I'll make sure I put the link down below. Also, make sure you go check out Steve's channel. He will be uploading videos fairly soon as well with some insane damages again, because just like when I interviewed him for his MVR, he decided to hit a world record. So we'll see what world records he decides to get pretty soon. It's just how it works and like that. Hopefully everyone had a good time. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about flanking. And if you are a DD, do not go to the corner of the map. There is no gold there. That's only for carriers. Have a good one, everyone. Peace.
Yes.